The abusively biased mainstream media, they continue to prove they're fundamentally incapable of covering President-elect Donald Trump fairly. Now, CNN, the Clinton News Network, they continually go after President-elect Trump. Just take a look at this report from Jeff Zeleny. Take a look.
Donald Trump is showing signs tonight of being a sore winner. The president-elect is suggesting, with zero evidence to back up his claim, that he won the popular vote, and he's a victim of widespread election fraud.
Is that fair and balanced? Now, President-elect Trump, he responded by retweeting criticisms of Zeleny's report and then tweeted himself, quote, CNN is so embarrassed by their total 100% support of Hillary Clinton, and yet her loss in a landslide, they don't know what to do. And then later he added, quote, well, I thought that @CNN would get better after they failed so badly in their support of Hillary Clinton. However, since the election, they are worse. Now, it's important to remember that Jeff Zeleny, well, he's the same so-called journalist. Remember, he fawned over President Obama back in 2009. Remember this question back when he was working at the New York Times? Take a look.
During these first 100 days, what has surprised you the most about this office, enchanted you the most about serving in this office, humbled you the most, and troubled you the most?
Now, let me write this down.
Surprised, troubled.
I've got, what was the first one?
Surprised.
Surprised.
Troubled.
Troubled.
Enchanted.
Enchanted. Nice.
And humbled.
And what was the last one? Humbled?
Humbled. Thank you, sir.
Enchanted? Really? Now, he had the chance to ask the president a real question, and that's the one he picked. Now, Zeleny, he's not alone over there at CNN. There's a lot of Trump bashing going on 24/7. Let's just take a quick look.
This really speaks to incompetence. They can't even keep the president-elect from making a fool of himself on Twitter by saying that millions of people voted illegally. He looks foolish saying something like that.
Well, it really is an unprecedented move. Donald Trump using his platform to question the integrity of the American election system.
As he heads home this evening, the president-elect is continuing one of his trademark Twitter tirades, blasting the effort to recount votes in some states.
This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part.
Wow, CNN looking pretty foolish. Now, I've been saying since 2008, journalism is dead, and those are only a few of the countless examples that prove it. But the liberal mainstream media, they're not interested in the truth or facts. They're all about pushing their radical left-wing agenda. What are they trying to do? Damage President-elect Donald Trump. Now, WikiLeaks exposed rampant collusion between the press and the Clinton campaign. So my question is, why should Donald Trump grant equal access to all of them? Now, in this day and age of social media, well, he doesn't need the press to connect with you, the American people. And as I said before, I think it's time to reevaluate the press and maybe change the traditional relationship with the press in the White House. For example, would President Obama allow 50 Sean Hannitys in the press pool asking him and his press secretary questions every single day? No, of course not. So my message tonight to the press is simple. You guys are done. You've been exposed as fake, as having an agenda, as colluding. You're a fake news organization. Here with reaction, the editor-in-chief of Life Zet, Fox News contributor, nationally syndicated radio talk show host Laura Ingraham, and former White House press secretary Ari Fleischer. You know, there are rumors that Laura may be calling Ari for advice. Well, I'll move on. Ari, you wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal. Am I right about this? Does Donald Trump need the same dog and phony pony show to go on this cat and mouse game with a media that we know is biased, that was in the tank for Hillary Clinton? Why would CNN deserve a seat in that media room at the White House?
Well, the fact of the matter is the president and his team have latitude to make any number of changes in the way the White House press operation works. There are no laws that govern it. What governs it is tradition, some sense of mutual respect, which is really broken down. And so he can make huge changes. You know, I would counsel Sean not to go as far as you are going. I do think there's something to be gained by talking to the mainstream media and fighting with them and getting your points across. You know, good teams can win tough games on the road, and it's a road game when you deal with the mainstream media. But
Is it a road game, though? But what about all these organizations? CNN giving questions to Hillary Clinton. CNN seeking questions for the Republican nominee from the DNC. CNBC, ABC, NBC, MSNBC. Why? Why does he have to waste his time with people that we know don't like him and colluded with the other side? Why?
Look, and this is why I wrote the piece for the Wall Street Journal. There's a bigger, more broader, important point, and that is the American people have lost faith in the press. According to the Gallup poll, trust in the press to report news accurately and fairly is at an all-time low. According to the Pew poll, only 5% of the American people have a great deal of confidence in the media. The press has lost the very people it needs to rely on, to read them, to view them, and to keep the president in check. And so the press has brought this on itself, and I think Donald Trump would be smart to diversify the press, bring in different groups of people, foreign reporters, business writers. I'd love to see one day, Sean, liberal and conservative.coms in the briefing room together, asking the questions.
What do you think, Laura?
Sean, I think you should be in the briefing room every day. I'd love that. I'd love you asking questions, tough questions. Well, look, I think Ari has a point. I'd have to sure I'd throw it all away and say, oh, we're not going to do these briefings anymore. But I do think when it comes to reporting, real straight reporting, there are networks, and I think you named one, CNN, Sean, that is so far in the tank for the Democrats, so far in the tank for political correctness. You know how pathetic they are? I just got an email from some kid who I guess is a reporter for CNN, who went to Dartmouth College to go through old copies of the Dartmouth Review to, like, write a piece on, or do a piece, I don't know, on like what I wrote about as editor of the Dartmouth Review 30-plus years ago. I mean, this is, I'm like, yeah, I also short-sheeted kids' beds at camp, okay? Yeah, I mean, it's like,
well, they did that to Romney. He was a bully in high school. Remember that back in 2012?
Yeah, I mean, but Sean, they're dispatching reporters to interview professors in their 80s that I wrote columns about. I mean, this is what it is. We have all these problems with ISIS and immigration. They're going back to, like, Dartmouth Library. It's the funniest thing
Laura,
about
your life is one of great interest. The country needs to know.
Oh,
this is pivotal what you did back in Dartmouth.
He's like, I want to talk to you on the record. I'm like, no, I only talk to real news organizations. Go ahead.
Do you think, Laura, though, that there might be a benefit if you colluded to such a high level? I'll use CNN as an example. You don't get that seat back. As a matter of course, Ari's talking about tradition, but that tradition has changed. The media landscape has changed. Their relevance is greatly diminished, and I would argue most people do not get their news from those sources any longer, and maybe it's time to reevaluate all of this.
Well, I think it's within Trump's purview. I think Ari's right. Trump sets the rules and the way he wants the press operation to work. I haven't really given it much thought. I think people have gotten so smart and so hip to what they're doing that it's a bunch of white noise coming. And I'm not saying that all the folks over at CNN are bad people, or there's some good reporters. I think there are, and there's some really fair reporters there. But I mean, the kind of stuff they're doing, the kind of little games they're playing, are so transparent that they're either going to just, they're the fake news organizations. I mean,
it's funny, right?
A lot of the .coms are just like commentary sites and cultural sites. They're not pretending to be news organizations, but there are some news organizations that are basically operating as Hillary or Democrat super PACs.
Last word, Ari.
Let me give you an example. This is how the bias works, and it bothers me. When President Obama was elected, the press widely reported historic win because he's African-American. Hillary, if she had won, it would have been historic, first woman. Where are the stories saying historic win by Donald Trump, first outsider? The press largely sees things through the filter of the Democrat and liberal lens, which is race identity politics, and liberal points of view. They hurt themselves when they do that, distance themselves from the American people, because there are so few conservatives and people who see things through a Republican lens in the media. And that's their biggest problem, and that's why they tilt, and that's why they're biased.
Well said. All right, guys. Thank you both. Appreciate it. By the way, Laura's new website, LifeZet, is doing very well. Thank you.
Thanks so much.